If you've been scrolling through TikTok, then you know that big corporations are just flooding the page to get those organic engagement rates. My name is Natalia. I am the founder and marketing director here at Hapteam, and today we're speaking with Hannah McConnell from Birch's brand on what is happening on TikTok and how you can apply those strategies to your small business. Hannah, welcome to our channel. I am very excited to have this conversation today because these two big players are just doing it so good in social and in their marketing strategies, and so important for us to talk about this. Let our small business out there know how they can apply these to their businesses. But let's just like take a little bit of a step back and just tell us a little bit about you and what you do there at Birch's brand.
Absolutely. So, like a lot of us, I started my business journey in 2020 as the sole copywriter and strategist at Birch's brand. And if you don't know anything about us, we are a creative studio and we specialize in purpose focused content for values based brands and people, which is essentially just a fancy way of saying that we like working with passionate people like you guys. Um, I think our philosophy for everything we do can kind of be summarized by the phrase human centered, which is even more poignant in a topic like this, like social media. And I'm a firm believer that the primary strategy you need to succeed on social media is one that puts the audience first, this human centered philosophy. And I think our case studies today are really going to highlight this core philosophy.
I know, right? It's completely proven that social media is here to stay. That doesn't matter what the big player is out there. Your business has to be present on social media, and it's one of the big marketing cards that you need to play as your business right now. And it's not just because you're there in social media just to sell something, but it's because your brand has to be present. And users are especially looking a lot about social media, looking a lot about how they can buy from you. So I do think that social media is that great way to speak to your audience even before they're thinking about buying your product. So why we don't jump directly to our first case study of today, and we're talking here today about Reese's, and it's so cool. This brand is so cool. If you haven't heard about it, you're gonna hear about it now.
Yeah, so if you haven't already heard about it in your Instagram feed or even better in real life, Recess is a beverage company, more specifically a CBD beverage company that's sort of taken over the millennial market online and really like changed the game on social media for sure. Insider actually coined Recess the sparkling millennial CBD beverage that could be the White Claw of sparkling CBD drinks. So why is there so much hype over this beverage brand?
It's so funny because this is definitely not taking they're not taking a beaten path. They're doing things differently. And what it's inspiring for me about what they're doing is that they're taking a feeling instead of taking an approach of sales by data. So what by this I mean that they're taking, and by their website, this is quote unquote, their tagline is "We canned a feeling." They literally use it as a tagline, and this strategy has worked for them pretty well. Is This is a prime example of what we're talking about here. They selected this type of feeling and used it as their brand strategy to connect with their audience. Their audience are millennials and Gen Zs, and it's awesome because we collectively are always feeling the same topics. As that I mean, they talk about like stress and like the collective stress that we feel, and they are talking about the imposter syndrome, and they talked about all these other aspects that we really feel all the time, and we're speaking as generation. And this company really well portrays that by using the feeling to sell their products, and that is so funny for me because they're not looking at data. They're not saying, "Hey, this is going to reduce your stress by 30%." They're just telling you, "We can't have feeling. We are just telling you to feel cool and feel good and relax," and that's why the name it's Reese's. So it's so funny about that.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think something that we can all sort of relate to is as a small business owner or a startup, You sort of receive a lot of like opinions and advice from people in the community, which is awesome. And I think it's something we all love about the small business community. But there's so much opposing advice coming from all these different directions. And I think Recess is a really great example of if you just have total confidence in who you are as a brand, who you are, that's really a driver for your success. But beyond that, I think they've just done an incredible job focusing on their audience first. And I think this is a really important strategy for small businesses to focus on.
It's definitely is. It's safe to say that, as I mentioned, like every millennial that works from home or even it's starting their own business and here in this case study that we're talking right now has felt all these topics. And let's talk about knowing your audience, right? Because this company does an excellent job at that. They really portray their products. They really try to put their products at the top centered of keeping calm from those feelings that you are feeling. So if you have a whole collective audience that feels stressed, that it's like feeling imposter syndrome, that is like literally having doubts about themselves, they take this and literally make it work. And they make the company, they make their audience feel that they need this drink to get rid of those feelings. And that's something that is very specific about this brand, that it's a really great takeaway. So let's talk about knowing your audience. And this company does an excellent job at that. And I wanted to kind of like go over the like top line type of structure that they do create for their company. And by this, I mean that they sold their products through Amazon and through e-commerce websites. And this is very important to note as part of their strategy, just because you have a whole collective audience that buys from online, that buys online. You don't go, our generation specifically don't go to stores to buy. It's very rare that we like certain stores, and that's Target, but that's another story. But for brands like this one specifically, they attract users by having a really great and cool brand voice, going over what it's the tones and top voice, brand voice, and top topics that they select that collectively we all agree on. And from there, they make a purchase funnel that is very easy to follow. It's just a couple of clicks in your phone or in your computer to buy their products. Once that you're hit and already created a development of self-awareness with this brand, you're really going to go to buy, because they can a feeling. So it's so good. This marketing company, their marketing agency or the marketing team has done an excellent job at that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think this focus on their audience specifically and really understanding their consumers' needs is another key component that really sets them apart. I mean, you can even take their samplers page on their website, for example. The copy literally reads, not sure which path to calm you should take, can't pick a favorite flavor. We made the samplers for people like you. Like, yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly how I feel a lot of time looking at products like this, especially when it's something that's so out there. So I totally agree.
Yeah. Yes, Reese's. We totally agree. As an audience, we totally agree with you. We're a little bit biased here right now. But it's so cool to see that company like this, they follow a specific type of colors, a specific type of aesthetic, a specific type of brand voice to get to their audience. And that's something that we need to tell small businesses to apply. It's not about going out there and buying millions of dollars that you don't have on ads that are not going to serve you. It's collectively creating a brand that connects with your audience, where it's going to allow you to get there. It's going to allow you to get to the place that you want to create a community that connects with your product and that you're solving their problem. So this is a very specific key takeaway for small businesses that are hearing this right now. You need to create a community. You need to solve a problem even before going to spend millions on Instagram and Facebook and all of these other media companies that want your money, because marketing is for solving a problem for a business, and your business has to solve that problem even before going out there and finding the $1 million type of media buys that you need to do. So that takes me to the next topic, because we need to talk about the aesthetic. This company, so good with the aesthetic. Tell us a little bit more, Hannah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, their aesthetic is definitely on brand for the target audience that they're trying to reach for sure, which is anxious millennials, essentially. Um, Insider's Rebecca Aden put it best when she said, entering Recess's Instagram page is like stepping into a pastel millennial dreamscape. And if you're looking at it, that's exactly what it is. I think we can both agree that it's much more than just a visual aesthetic, though. It's sort of like an environment, a digital world for the company. And I think they've really recognized that it's not just about creating this product and selling it. That's going to make some disconnected distributor executive super happy. Their sales strategy focuses on direct to consumer first, which has been a fundamental shift for a lot of businesses over the last few years, I think. And back to that
Yeah.
point on creating an entire world, it's both a visual world and a feeling and sort of like an interaction for the community to have and to interact with. And their Instagram is a prime example of this. I mean, just going through those posts, you can see all of this in play.
Yeah, definitely. You can see all of this in play, and you can see how they select the same kind of topics and they just like reinvent them over and over again. One thing that I really wanted to mention and talk about and just get your opinion out there, it's the difference between TikTok and Instagram. And this is because brands need to understand that they build communities in different platforms and that their communities still their audience is the same. Communities are going to be a little bit different. The community that you build on TikTok and how do you build your content with the same topics on TikTok is not going to be the same thing that you build on Instagram. And Reese's is a great example of this. Their Instagram feed, as you can see here in the image, like it's very like well played, very well put. Graphics are like extremely well made and placed in a very funny way because that's how their brand works. But it's very into tone of what Instagram algorithm wants, that it's perfection and an aesthetically pleasing type of post. But when you go to TikTok, that like TikTok so different. TikTok is very messy, it's very fun, it's fundamentally entertainment, and it's not exactly the beautiful post what you want to see. They don't even use covers for their picture, for their TikToks. So in that case, they, even though it looks a little bit messy, that's what the audience wants. They want entertainment, that it's fun, that it sells the product, that or tell them about the product, but it's not a direct sales proposition. So that's something that I wanted to mention. Like, what is your thoughts on the difference between their aesthetic in different platforms, even using same topics, the same color, and the same theme?
Yeah, well, I think Duolingo really hit the nail on this and figured out finally that not all social media is just about an aesthetic. Instagram, that's very much the case, but TikTok, Duolingo really realized that it's about entertainment, like you said, and you don't have to put together a pretty feed. Sometimes you're just on a trend, hopping on a trend, or whatever it is, you know. But I think this is really important. Even these two companies that we're looking at today, just like seeing stark differences in how different each platform is. Even if you're running the same pages for the same company across all these different platforms, you really have to like tweak your strategy that intensely to every platform to succeed on all platforms.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that takes us to our next case study, that it's Duolingo. And get the drum roll started because Duolingo, it's been so good in the last couple of days, in the last couple of months or year. This company has been viral over and over again. Like every TikTok that they post is so funny, it's so relatable, and also it's on brand. How can this person did this? Like, round of
Yeah.
applause to this girl because she's so good. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Duolingo as well because Duolingo, it's literally the best representation out there of what we're talking about today. And how you can apply these strategies to your small business is very important because they're not using big ads, they're not using beautiful pictures, and their difference between their Instagram feed and the Instagram and the TikTok algorithm is completely different. On TikTok, as you mentioned, it's very open. They're like on trends. They're like even making fun with artists like Dua Lipa because those are super funny. While on Instagram, they keep the
Mm-hmm.
corporate type of style. All the graphics are again very pleasing, aesthetically beautiful. Um, Everything is with the owl, so that's really good to see how they use the owl in different placements for different platforms. But let's just literally go ahead and talk about Duolingo, Hannah, because it's awesome to see. And if you're not in TikTok, you have to get there.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I think one of the biggest things and one of the biggest reasons why Duolingo has gone so viral on TikTok is because they sort of leaned into like breaking that fourth wall in a sense on TikTok, whereas their Instagram, like you said, is still a little bit corporate and like professional and aesthetically pleasing. But on TikTok, they're full out there and they're doing some crazy stuff like twerking on tables and all that stuff. So I think they just really leaned into like breaking the fourth wall, and they really realized that social media is about connecting with your audience, and they're doing that incredibly well on TikTok. Like you said, they're jumping on trends. They're shouting out Dua Lipa because a lot of people apparently confuse them, um, and they're really
And they
active.
use that as a strategy.
Yeah,
It's so
it's
cool. They use that
hilarious.
as a strategy and they keep going. And that's something very interesting about this strategy on TikTok, that it's very one-on-one. It's literally every single week they do what they need to do. And I'm sure that that in the back end looks like not having a social media
Mm-hmm.
calendar, is just going with the
Yeah.
flow. It's that 24/7 job for this person to be all the time like talking about this
Mm-hmm.
and checking the trends and being present and kind of like making the company go with that as well. And really, this is a really good example of how an executive can let it go, and give the opportunity to a new person and a young
Yeah.
person, to go ahead and be part of the big industry on the big TikTok algorithm, without any control.
Yeah, and I think that's a really
That's so
great
funny.
point for both of these companies is they're both really leaning into like the millennial brand voice, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
and they're sort of making fun of it in a way, which I think we can all relate to. They're not just like being annoyingly millennial. They're sort of making fun of it and like just having a good time and poking fun at themselves, which is, I think, something we all do as millennials. So I think they've both done that really well, brand voice wise. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that because literally the social media manager in an interview, she mentioned this, and I quote, a big part of Duolingo is that we make language learning fun. And I think that quality especially was such an awesome opportunity to link to TikTok, because TikTok is meant for entertainment. It's meant for people to have fun. Brands are there to entertain, they're not just there to sell. Brands that try selling things don't really tend to resonate, but if they entertain, people love it. And that's a really great quote. And thank you for the social media manager on Duolingo for that. But I mentioned this quote specifically because this is a really great takeaway for small businesses out there. You are not out there putting content to sell your product. And if you are doing that millions or millions of times, people is going to ignore you. An algorithm is scrolling. It's social media is a scrolling platform right now. For all of the social medias, you scroll in all of them, in Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn. Even if it's a serious platform, if you are just posting out there all the time, like, hey, buy my product, hey, buy my product, repetitively over and over again, people is going to get tired of you, and they're just going to scroll away. So this is some very interesting point that I want to take as a takeaway for a small business, of small businesses out there, is that please do not sell all the time. Really go and understand your audience, entertain this audience, and put a little bit of you into that. And TikTok, with Duolingo, did that extremely well, where they're entertaining on a platform, but as well their product is entertaining in another way. And I have a couple of things that I want to mention about this because I saw the other day, and this was not even a script for this call, but I saw the other day that there was other companies that have owls into their companies, and they're hopping on the trend. And it's so funny to see because there is a couple of TikToks about this company. I think it was Hotsuit, that they literally tried to kind of like say, oh, when you are not the only owl on this app and you hate it. And it was extremely funny. We're putting that on here in the screen for you to see. But it's so funny to see how other brands have seen the value of, oh, this company is really hitting off with this strategy, and we need to get on the trend before we even be forgotten by your own industry.
Yeah, and I think another big takeaway here is that both of these brands and a lot of bigger brands can take that risk to not do what's mainstream, to not do what social media managers recommend that you do. They're really just like making their own path, and I think that's really important for even small businesses or startups to realize that, like, yes, there is a right or wrong way to do some things, but it's really crucial that you just try to do it in your way and you try to like really stick to your brand voice and really meet your customers where they are.
Yeah, definitely. And if you don't have a millennial or a Gen Z into your team, this is your sign to take one in right now.
Yeah.
We're advertising here for this industry, but what I'm trying to say here, really here, is that the way that we consume Facebook and LinkedIn and the older platforms, it's not that it's going to get over, but it's not exactly what the next generations are moving on. And TikTok is not only a app for kids anymore. At the like 5 years ago, people would think like, oh, TikTok is just for kids and stuff like that. But it's not. Right now, there is a lot of people on there. You need to get into it, and you need to move forward to create your own brand voice and create your own company and entertain. Do not sell. Entertain with your company, and connect that to your product. And that's a very important part.
In terms of brand voice, let's go a little bit into the brand voice of Duolingo, just to kind of like go over that because they are been very sassy, and that for a big corporation is a big step, and they're like opening the door and opening the eyes of a lot of corporations that will not allow, by legal, will not allow to have this openness of sassiness into their brand voice. They will be very scared about it and the consequence of that. And we're seeing a shift right now in the market in a lot of companies to shift from not being sassy to allowing themselves to be a little bit more sassy online.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? Brand voice is a very important part.
Well, the sassiness, it might be sort of like a persona. I mean, it's the owl's persona, but I think it's really important. Like it feels a little bit more authentic than just like this other fake influencer persona that a lot of brands share. I mean, they all look the same, whereas
Yeah.
Duolingo and Recess are really stepping outside of the box and creating their own brand voice, and taking risks. It is
Yeah.
still a risk, but I think they've both pulled it off really well, just being true to themselves, true to who they are as brands.
Yeah, definitely. And that's exactly one of the things that are, it's another takeaway. Like, this is an extremely good takeaway for it is that you need to take risks. You need to be confident about your product and be confident that your persona and the persona that you're putting out there, it's going to resonate. And that confidence comes with research and comes with taking risks because there's no data in the world that it's going to tell you how to move forward with this, and how to move forward with how fast the market is moving. So it's very important that as a takeaway you say to the company, like, we need to take a little bit of risk, we need to create a persona, and we need to humanize our brand voice to not sound like a robot but sounds like a real human being that it's connecting with others. That's so cool. I think we are so excited to have you here. Thank you so much, for being part of this channel, and we will see you soon, of course, in another episode.
Yes, thank you for having me.